Thanks for joining me on episode 829 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
This is Wendy Gentry from Baker University. I encourage you to live your life from the inside out. And one way to be inspired to do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend, Scott Mader.
What's interesting is as you begin to recognize and develop confidence instead of arrogance, you will discover that is attractive and influential building for other people. People love being around confident. People hate being around arrogant. People are attracted to confidence, and it allows you to influence others to do things.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode about developing your influence through stewarding your talent, I talk with you about the difference between confidence and arrogance. I share 8 tips on how to reduce that feeling of arrogance, and I also share why this really matters for your influence.
You've heard me talk about developing your talent, and one of the best ways to do that is through books. But if you're like most people today, it's hard to find the time to read. And that's why today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Go to inspiredstewardship.com/audible to sign up, and you can get a 30-day free trial. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from, and you can pick one and listen your way to developing your talents via Audible. That's inspiredstewardship.com/audible to get your free trial and listen to great books the same way you're listening to this podcast.
Confidence and arrogance. We often confuse these two things because they are both something that we have to identify about how we feel about our abilities. But the difference is there's a difference between them too, because confidence is that faith that you have in someone, something, yourself, your abilities. Confidence is understanding and believing that you're good at something. Arrogance, on the other hand, is that same belief, but then taken to an exaggerated level. It makes you the most important or the most skillful or better than you really are. Now, the truth is, belief in your abilities does lead to confidence, and being confident about things is a good thing. Confidence doesn't lead you to be driven to show your knowledge or to show your competence. Obviously, you still feel good whenever someone points out that you're good at something, but you're not driven by that feeling. You're not going out to show everyone how good you are at something. You use your talents and you use them well and you succeed because of that, but you also understand your weaknesses and that you're not good at everything. But arrogance, that exaggerated belief in your ability, is when you see that, you tend to look down on other people. You tend to see that your abilities are better than everyone else's, no matter what. And being right, being the smartest, being the best, being the strongest, being whatever becomes your driving force. And you have to push other people down so that you can be built up. Arrogance often comes out of insecurity. It often comes out of fear or hidden things in belief that you really aren't as good as you think you are. When you think about that, how do you begin to develop confidence instead of arrogance? Well, one thing is be sincere, be truthful. You've heard that expression, fake it till you make it. It's not really true. Instead, if you pose as having abilities and pose as confidence, then that is going to come across as arrogance because it's not real and you know that. Instead, just be yourself, be sincere, be truthful. Know your own strengths, but also know your own weaknesses. Knowing how for every strength you have, there has to be corresponding weaknesses. Nobody is great at everything. And as you do that, you'll develop humility. And out of humility, you recognize that you can let other people shine. You can let other people do things well. And that doesn't lessen you at all. That you can be okay even if others are shining. And as you do that, you can become about by doing this more, by beginning to listen more. Let other people have the opportunity to shine. Talk less, listen more. Be okay with being wrong. Be okay with not being the best person in the room. And be okay with being vulnerable. Be okay with being seen for who you really are, warts and all, strengths and weaknesses both. Be okay with being seen for being good, but not having to be the best at whatever it is. Dare to be transparent and show people who you are. Be mindful of what's going on. Practice understanding yourself, your emotional states, understanding where your actions are coming from, what's driving you. Because as you become aware of that, it allows you to step back from being the person that has to be the best in the room. What's interesting is as you begin to recognize and develop confidence instead of arrogance, you will discover that is attractive and influential building for other people. People love being around confident. People hate being around arrogant people. People are attracted to confidence. And it allows you to influence others to do things that are better for them because out of your confidence, they begin to lessen their own feelings of competition. And you begin to be able to work beside and with people instead of against people. It stops being necessary to, quote, pull people along, and you just are able to show them through your own actions that this is the way to be. It's funny, but it all fits together. And at the end of the day, as you do that, you will begin to grow in confidence more and more. And out of that confidence will come the real, true ability to do what you are meant to do and to have others see that for the gift that it is. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of talent, you can go over to inspiredstewardship.com/talent and sign up for our 5-week series on the stewardship of talent. Or if you're in the U.S., you can text 44222 talent tips. That's talent tips to 44222 and get those tips. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.